In the silence of old Europe, the echoes of stone walls still whisper of a time when warriors wore mantles of white, marked with a red cross. They called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, but history remembers them as the Templars, born in the years after the First Crusade, sworn to protect pilgrims on the road to Jerusalem. They were men who carried both sword and scripture, faith and steel, devotion and secrecy. And yet behind their vows of poverty and obedience rose one of the most powerful and enigmatic orders the world has ever known. The Templars built fortresses that still stand. They managed treasures that kings envied. They commanded fleets that rivaled nations, and they stood under the blessing of popes who defended them as holy guardians. But their rise was not only the story of courage or of politics. Beneath the surface lay whispers of something older, something hidden, a treasure not measured in gold or silver, a secret not written openly in books, a mystery carried in silence, the whispers of the Grail. The Grail, what is it? A cup, a chalice, a vessel from the Last Supper, the cup that held the blood of Christ on Calvary? Or is it something else? A stone fallen from the crown of an angel, a relic of power from before memory. Some claim it is a bloodline, a living treasure carried in flesh. Others claim it is secret knowledge, forbidden wisdom preserved from ancient temples. Still others imagine it as a symbol, a quest of spirit rather than of stone. The truth is elusive, but the Templars are always tied to it, as guardians, as seekers, as keepers of a hidden flame. When the knights first came to Jerusalem, they did not build new fortresses at once. Instead, they dug. Beneath the ruins of the Temple of Solomon, they tunneled for years. Records whisper of this, but speak in shadows. What did they find beneath the stones? Relics, scrolls, perhaps something older than the temple itself, perhaps fragments of a forgotten covenant, perhaps the very heart of the Grail mystery. When they emerged, their order was changed, their rise accelerated, their authority expanded, as though they had found something that gave them not only wealth, but influence far beyond soldiers or monks. The order spread across France, Spain, England, Portugal, lands donated, castles razed, treasuries filled, pilgrims guided, kings indebted. But at the core of their mission, there remained the silence, the hidden rites, the secret knowledge, the whispers of treasure unseen, the Grail, perhaps, hidden within their grasp, not to be revealed to crown or altar. For the Grail was not trophy, not jewel, not currency, but something more, something that demanded guardianship rather than display, silence rather than proclamation. The Grail in stories was always elusive, knights of Arthur's court seeking it, poets of the Middle Ages writing of it, troubadours singing of its glory, always just beyond reach, always hidden, always demanding purity and courage to approach. And as these stories spread in Europe, the Templars walked in silence, their own rituals perhaps echoing the legend, their own treasures, perhaps inspiring the tales. The Grail legend and the Templars entwined like vine and stone, myth and history woven, until neither can be untangled from the other. But power breeds envy, and secrecy breeds suspicion. Kings who owed debts to the Templars began to fear them. Popes who once blessed them began to doubt. Whispers of heresy spread. Accusations of worshipping strange idols, of spitting on the cross, of secret rites. The truth is uncertain, perhaps lies planted to destroy them. Perhaps fragments of misunderstood practices, perhaps glimpses of hidden knowledge too dangerous to reveal. What is clear is that their enemies struck and the order fell. On Friday the 13th in the year 1307, the King of France moved against them, knights seized, tortured, confessions dragged from broken bodies, their Grand Master burned, their order dissolved, yet their treasure was never found, their vaults empty, their secrets intact, as if they had prepared. as if the Grail had already been carried away, hidden beyond reach, preserved where no crown could seize it, no fire could destroy it, no time could erase it. And so the whispers endured that the Grail was hidden in France, or in Spain, or carried to Scotland, perhaps beneath Rosslyn Chapel, carved with symbols of mystery, perhaps across the sea to new lands unknown to medieval maps, perhaps buried in mountains, perhaps preserved in bloodlines, the treasure unseen yet eternal, the Grail continuing to whisper, the Templars gone in flesh but alive in legend, their secret carried into shadows, waiting. The Grail is treasure, but it is also path, not only what is found but what is sought, not only what is carried but what is remembered. The Templars may have hidden more than an object, they may have hidden a wisdom, a knowledge that transforms the Shuk-Sumir. Seeker, the Grail as eternal mystery, as hidden truth, as treasure within and without, whispered across centuries, whispered still. The story of the Grail is not confined to one place or one time. It flows like a river through myth and memory, carrying fragments from ancient temples, from sacred groves, from hidden chambers. The Templars may have been only the latest guardians in a line that stretched back before recorded history. For the idea of a vessel of power, of a source of divine wisdom, of a treasure that grants eternity, is older than Christendom, older than Rome, older than Jerusalem. It echoes in Celtic legends of cauldrons that grant rebirth, in Persian tales of cups that reveal truth, in Indian stories of Amrita, the nectar of immortality, in Greek myths of ambrosia and chalices of the gods. The Grail is eternal, its form shifting with culture, its essence unchanged, always symbol of immortality, of divine connection, of hidden treasure. The Templars entered this current not by accident, but by design. When they dug beneath the Temple of Solomon, they were not seeking stone but memory. They were searching for what was hidden, perhaps scrolls of wisdom carried from Babylon, perhaps remnants of the Ark, perhaps fragments of knowledge passed from Egypt, from Sumer, from beyond. The Grail may not be one thing but many, a convergence of symbols, relics, wisdoms, woven into one myth, one treasure, one secret carried by those who dared to guard it. As they rose in Europe, their reputation grew, not only as soldiers, but as keepers of mysteries. Pilgrims whispered that their churches held secret chambers, that their ceremonies echoed with strange words, that their initiations involved symbols unlike those of other orders, perhaps remnants of what they had found in Jerusalem, perhaps teachings too dangerous to reveal. And within these whispers, the Grail is always present, as object, as symbol, as path. Knights not only carrying swords, but carrying silence, a silence that concealed treasure, greater than armies. The Grail legend in Europe blossomed during their height. Poets like Chrétien de Troyes, writing of a mysterious vessel, Wolfram von Eschenbach speaking of a stone of heaven, others linking it to Joseph of Arimathea, who carried it to the west, who guarded it in secret, who entrusted it to chosen keepers. These stories spread just as the Templars spread, and it is difficult not to see the reflection. Knights sworn to silence guarding treasure, poets writing of knights seeking hidden vessels, history and myth entwined, each feeding the other, each whispering of a truth too vast for one form. When the order was destroyed, their treasure vanished, and the Grail became even more elusive, no longer guarded in fortresses, but hidden in legend, no longer spoken of in councils, but sung in whispers, no longer bound to one place, but scattered across imagination. The mystery deepened. Kings searched, popes searched, adventurers searched, none found, perhaps because they searched for an object. When the Grail is more than object, perhaps because they sought to seize, when the Grail cannot be seized, only sought, only approached with purity, only revealed to the worthy Rosslyn Chapel, is one of the strongest whispers, carved in the 15th century by descendants of those connected to the Templars, its stonework filled with images that seem to echo ancient mysteries, vines, and symbols unknown in Scotland, depictions of plants from across oceans not yet officially discovered, pillars carved with names that recall the Temple of Solomon, a building that feels less like church than like codex, as if it is book written in stone, a book that whispers of the Grail, not openly but symbolically, as if the treasure was hidden in architecture itself, waiting for eyes that can see. Some claim the Grail is hidden in France, beneath the soil of Languedoc, where Cathars once spoke of a pure church, where Montségur fell in fire, where the last defenders whispered of a treasure carried away in silence. Some claim the Grail is buried beneath Chartres Cathedral, whose architecture mirrors sacred geometry, whose stained glass sings of mysteries. Some claim it crossed the seas, carried in ships to Portugal, to Scotland, perhaps even to the New World, a treasure hidden not in one place, but in many, not in one vault, but in countless whispers, preserved not for kings, but for seekers. The bloodline theory adds another layer, that the Grail is not cup or stone, but flesh, the descendants of Christ and Magdalene, a secret guarded by Templars, hidden from church and crown, preserved in silence if true. Then the Grail is both treasure and person, both history and living memory, guarded in secrecy, not only through objects but through generations. The Templars accused of heresy, perhaps because they carried truths that defied church doctrine, truths that made kings tremble, truths that could overturn empires, the Grail as bloodline, as hidden royalty, as treasure of flesh and bone. Yet whether vessel, stone, bloodline, or knowledge, the essence of the Grail is always the same. It is the treasure of transformation, the key to eternity, the bridge between man and divine. The Templars were destroyed because they carried something too great for kings, too dangerous for popes, too sacred for the world of power. Their silence preserved it, their fall scattered it. But their whispers carried it forward into myths, into legends, into stories, into architecture, into mystery traditions that still speak of it, into whispers that we still chase. The Grail is not easy. It does not yield to greed. It does not reveal to violence. It demands quest. It demands purity. It demands surrender. Those who seek it as trophy will fail. Those who seek it as domination will lose. Only those who walk with humility may find. Only those who listen to whispers may hear. Only those who understand that treasure is also path may approach. The Templars knew this, and so they guarded it, not as prize, but as mystery, not as possession, but as trust, not as secret to be owned, but as truth to be preserved. And so the Grail endures, whispered in Rosslyn, whispered in Montségur, whispered in Chartres, whispered in manuscripts, whispered in poems, whispered in songs, whispered in stories, never revealed fully, always hidden, always calling, the hidden treasure of the Templars, the eternal mystery, the Grail. The mystery of the Grail deepens as we follow the trail of whispers left across Europe. For the fall of the Templars was not the end of their secret, but the beginning of its scattering. Treasure once guarded by fortress, now hidden in legend. Knowledge once spoken in ritual, now carved in stone. Memory once carried in nights, now passed into myth. The Grail moving not as relic of gold, but as shadow of eternity. Always hidden, yet always near. Always silent, yet always calling. When the fires consumed the Templars in Paris, and their Grand Master Jacques de Molay was bound to the stake, he spoke words that would echo across centuries. He cursed the king and the pope. He swore that truth would prevail, and within that curse lies another whisper. For if the treasure was destroyed, why did he speak of truth enduring? Perhaps because he knew the treasure lived, carried away, preserved, hidden. Perhaps because he knew the Grail could not burn, could not be seized, could not be destroyed, perhaps because he knew the treasure was beyond the grasp of fire. In the lands of Languedoc, the Cathars had already spoken of a hidden treasure. When their fortress at Montségur fell, they surrendered not everything. For chronicles tell of 4 Cathars slipping away down the mountain, carrying with them something sacred, something forbidden, something never found. Some whisper that it was the Grail, entrusted to them before the flames consumed their stronghold, carried into silence, hidden where it could never be seized. This story intertwined with the fall of the Templars, 2 streams of heresy, 2 echoes of the same treasure, 2 whispers of the Grail. Chartres Cathedral stands as another monument of mystery, its stained glass windows depicting stories that shine with colors not seen elsewhere, its floor carved with labyrinth that draws the seeker into spirals of meditation, its proportions reflecting sacred geometry, as though the very building is a map of heaven, as though the very stone sings of eternity. Some say the Grail is encoded here, not as object but as architecture, hidden in the measurements, in the light, in the harmony. The Templars had influence here, their hand upon its creation, their whispers etched into glass and stone, the Grail present not as relic, but as design. In Scotland, Rosslyn Chapel rises, centuries after the fall of the Templars, but filled with carvings that whisper of their legacy. Vines of maize and aloe, unknown in Scotland at the time, pillars that mirror the Temple of Solomon, angels holding strange objects, symbols that scholars cannot explain, a chapel that feels more like treasure chest than church. Legend says the Grail is hidden beneath its floor, in vaults sealed, in chambers never opened. The St. Clair family connected to Templar refugees, their chapel a shrine to secrets, Rosslyn itself a whisper of the Grail, not in gold, but in stone. The Grail appears also in poetry. Wolfram von Eschenbach spoke not of cup, but of stone, a stone that grants eternal life, a stone that fell from the crown of Lucifer when he was cast from heaven, a stone carried by angels, a stone guarded by knights, a stone that feeds and sustains. This is not chalice, but cosmic relic, yet it is still Grail, still treasure, still symbol of divine. Perhaps Wolfram knew something. Perhaps he whispered what he could not say openly. Perhaps his stone was another form of the same treasure. Perhaps the Grail is not cup or stone, but both, many forms for one. Truth. And what of the theory of bloodline? The story that Christ and Magdalene bore children, that their descendants lived in silence, that the Grail was their blood, their flesh, their line, guarded by Templars, preserved against church and crown. This theory gained life in whispers of Rennes-le-Château, of hidden parchments, of mysteries unearthed by priests, of fortunes built upon secrets. The Grail as womb, as family, as lineage, treasure not of object but of living memory, guarded not in vaults but in blood. If true, then the Templars were protectors not of cup or stone, but of life itself. The Grail also whispers in alchemy, the vessel of transformation, the cup of eternal life, the container of philosopher's stone. Alchemists spoke in riddles, in symbols of metals and fire, but beneath their words lay echoes of the Grail. For both seek eternity, both seek transformation, both seek divine within matter. Perhaps the Grail is also alchemical, not only relic, but process, not only object but path, the knight seeking outside, the alchemist seeking within, both chasing the same treasure, both whispering the same truth. The Grail as secret of transformation. The Templars carried rituals that troubled their accusers, kisses on strange places, denials of Christ spoken in trials, idols described as heads worshipped. Many of these may be lies forced by torture, yet within them may hide fragments of truth, perhaps misunderstood rituals, perhaps symbols of initiation, perhaps echoes of ancient knowledge too dangerous to reveal. Some claim the idol was Baphomet, a head of wisdom, perhaps code for Sophia, divine knowledge, perhaps the Grail itself symbolized in ritual form. The Templars accused, not because they sinned, but because they knew, not because they blasphemed, but because they remembered. As centuries passed, the Grail endured in legend. Seekers arose, knights and kings sent expeditions, adventurers searched in mountains, mystics searched in visions, none found. Yet all inspired, the Grail refuses to be trophy, it refuses to be seized. It calls only to those who seek not with greed but with heart, not with conquest but with surrender, not with pride but with humility. And this is why it endures, this is why it whispers, this is why it remains hidden. The Grail is treasure, but it is also mirror, reflecting the soul of the seeker, giving back only what is within. The hidden treasure of the Templars is not only in vaults or bloodlines, it is in their silence, in their endurance, in their willingness to guard what could not be owned. They died, but their secret lived. They burned, but their treasure survived. They fell, but their whispers endured. And so the Grail continues, not lost, not destroyed, not seized, but waiting, always waiting, for the seeker, for the worthy, for the one who understands that the treasure is not only cup, not only stone, not only blood, not only knowledge, but all. The Grail eternal, the Grail hidden, the Grail whispering still. After the fall of the Templars, the Grail did not vanish into silence alone. It continued to call to those who sought beyond the veil of power and wealth. Kings and poets, priests and heretics, alchemists and explorers, each drawn by whispers they could not explain, each hoping to touch the treasure that eluded time. The Grail became more than hidden relic. It became beacon, shaping quests, inspiring legends, guiding seekers who often did not know what they were seeking until they were lost in the search in the courts of Europe. Stories of the Grail were read aloud, tales of Arthur and his knights riding into mystery, knights pure of heart, approaching a vessel that granted life, kings desiring it but never attaining, poets weaving riddles around it, troubadours singing of it in halls where lords drank wine and dreamed of destiny. These stories shaped imagination, but beneath them lay something more, a coded memory perhaps of real treasure once held, once hidden, once guarded, and it always protected from those who sought only power. Kings listened, and some acted. Expeditions were rumored. Journeys into Spain, into the Pyrenees, into the Alps, searching caves, mountains, abbeys. Some claimed fragments of relics, cups of silver, chalices of gold, bones of saints, yet never the Grail itself, always copies, always shadows, for the Grail does not reveal itself to those who search with armies. It does not show itself to those who demand. It does not belong to those who claim ownership. It is hidden from grasping hands. It whispers only to open hearts. Secret societies rose in the centuries after the Templars, groups of men who carried symbols echoing the Red Cross, who used codes and signs, who swore oaths of silence. Some claimed lineage from the Templars, others built myths of inheritance, the Freemasons, for example, with rituals that echo the Temple of Solomon, with architecture filled with geometry, with symbols of initiation and hidden wisdom. Some whispered that within their lodges the Grail tradition continued, not as relic, but as secret knowledge. The treasure passed not in chalices, but in rites, not in vaults, but in memory. The Renaissance brought new seekers, men who studied old manuscripts, who uncovered alchemy and hermetic wisdom, who spoke of vessels that transformed, of stones that gave eternity, of symbols that whispered of mysteries. The Grail reappeared in these texts, not named always, but present, the vessel of philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, the sacred container of divine spark, the Grail as symbol of alchemy, as treasure of transformation. Knights had sought it with sword, Alchemists sought it with fire, both reaching for the same truth, both chasing the same whisper, both following the path of the Templars without knowing. The new world opened, and with it rumors that the Grail had been carried across the sea, ships sailing under the banners of Portugal and Spain. Captains who had once served orders that traced to the Templars. Some whispered the Grail was carried to the Americas, hidden in mountains, in caves, in temples of peoples older than Europe itself. Legends of golden cities and fountains of youth may be distorted echoes, reflections of the same quest. The Grail hidden not only in Europe, but scattered across oceans, beyond maps, waiting in silence beneath stars unseen by medieval eyes. Modern seekers, too, have heard the whispers. Scholars who study parchments in dusty monasteries, archaeologists who dig beneath Roslin or Montségur, treasure hunters who chase codes in old books, writers who craft tales of bloodlines and secrets, films and novels that ignite imagination. Yet always the Grail escapes. Always it remains hidden. Always it calls but never yields. Perhaps because it is not object but mirror, not prize but path, not treasure to own but treasure to become. Seekers fail when they search outside only. Succeed when they understand within the Grail, as path is perhaps the greatest treasure. For every knight who rode for it was transformed. Every poet who wrote of it was changed. Every seeker who followed whispers found not object but self. The Grail awakens the soul. It tests the heart. It demands courage, purity, humility. The treasure is not gained but revealed, not seized but remembered, not possessed but embodied. This the Templars may have known. This may be why they died in silence, protecting not cup or stone, but wisdom of transformation, truth that cannot be burned, secret that cannot be seized. Yet the mystery of the Grail remains bound to the Templars, for their rise and fall mirrors its legend. Born in Jerusalem, guardians of pilgrims digging beneath ancient temple, finding something, rising to power, whispering of secrets, falling in fire. Treasure vanishing. Myth beginning. The Grail and the Templars are inseparable. Two stories entwined. Two echoes of the same mystery. And so to seek one is to seek the other. To speak of one is to whisper of. Both the Grail whispers still, in the halls of cathedrals where light glows in colors of eternity, in the stones of Roslin where vines twist into geometry, in the ruins of Montségur where fire consumed but did not destroy, in the manuscripts where poets dream of knights riding toward light, in the secret rites of those who call themselves heirs of the Templars. The Grail whispers, always hidden, always calling, the treasure of the Templars, the hidden heart of their order, the eternal mystery, waiting to be sought, never seized, never owned, but always waiting. The search for the Grail is not a story confined to ancient knights or medieval poets. It has endured across centuries, a fire that never dies, a whisper that never fades. Each age shaping its own vision of the treasure, each generation producing seekers who wander mountains, who study manuscripts, who follow maps drawn in riddles. Yet always the Grail remains elusive, hidden, calling, but never yielding, a mystery too vast to be seized, too sacred to be displayed. Some believe the Grail was hidden in France, deep in the lands of Languedoc, where the Cathars once kept their own mysteries, where Montségur stood as last bastion of defiance against church and crown. When the fortress fell in fire, the chronicles tell of treasure carried away. 4 figures descending by night, vanishing into shadow. Some say they carried the Grail, hidden in caves of the Pyrenees, preserved by guardians who passed in silence. There are still villagers who whisper of tunnels, of relics beneath mountains, of treasures never revealed, perhaps only memory, perhaps the echo of truth. Others turn to Spain, to Valencia, where a chalice is displayed in a cathedral, a vessel of stone and gold, revered as the cup of Christ, called by many the Holy Grail. Kings have knelt before it, popes have blessed it, scholars have argued for its authenticity. Its history stretches back through centuries, carried by monks, guarded in silence. If it is the Grail, then it has been in plain sight. Yet some say no, it is only one of many vessels, one of many candidates. A relic perhaps holy, but not the Grail itself, the true treasure still hidden. In England, stories speak of Glastonbury, of Joseph of Arimathea, carrying the Grail across seas, planting it in soil where thorn trees bloom, where Abbey once rose as center of pilgrimage. Legends tell of a chalice buried in chalice. Well, waters flowing red as if stained with blood. Seekers have searched its grounds. Mystics have dreamed of light in its gardens. Pilgrims still come, drawn not by certainty, but by whispers, by belief that here the Grail touched earth, here the treasure was hidden, here the eternal mystery lies sleeping. In Scotland, the whispers circle Rosslyn Chapel, a building filled with carvings that speak of knowledge beyond its time, angels holding strange vessels, pillars carved with names recalling the Temple of Solomon, vines of maize from across oceans not yet discovered. Vaults beneath sealed and silent, legends tell that the Grail lies here, hidden by descendants of Templar refugees, preserved in stone and secrecy, guarded by silence for centuries. Rosslyn itself, a Grail of architecture, a container of mystery, a vessel of whispers, a treasure not of gold, but of symbol. The Grail has been linked to Austria as well, to the Abbey of St. Mary of Montserrat, where monks speak of ancient relics, where mountains echo with mystery seekers. From Wagner to Nazi officers were drawn here, believing the Grail was hidden in its vaults, believing the treasure could grant power, immortality, destiny. But the Grail does not yield to conquest. It does not answer to ambition. Those who sought with force found nothing. Those who sought with greed were blinded. For the Grail is not seized by violence. It is revealed only to those who listen to whispers. There are also whispers of the Grail traveling farther still, carried across the Atlantic by ships connected to Portugal, perhaps by knights who fled persecution, perhaps by families who preserved secrets. Some imagine it hidden in the Americas, in caves, in mountains, in temples of peoples older than Europe. The Grail scattered not only across lands, but across oceans, its guardians moving it beyond reach of kings, beyond reach of popes, always hidden, always preserved, always safe from those who would display it as prize. And yet with every story comes the same pattern. The Grail is always near, but never found, always whispered but never revealed. Seekers follow trails that vanish, dig vaults that are empty, study manuscripts that lead to riddles. The treasure escapes every grasp, perhaps because it is not meant to be grasped, perhaps because it is not object but symbol, not cup but quest, not stone but path. The Grail is treasure of transformation. It reveals itself not in discovery, but in seeking, not in possession, but in journey. The search itself is the treasure. The Templars may have understood this better than any. Their silence, a greater protection than walls, their secrecy stronger than swords, their willingness to die without revealing proof, the final act of guardianship. They carried the Grail not in vaults, but in devotion, not in objects, but in oaths, not in relics, but in memory. The treasure hidden because it is not simply thing but truth, truth that can only be whispered, never shouted, truth that must be sought, never given, truth that endures because it cannot be destroyed. And so the search continues, scholars writing volumes, explorers mapping legends, secret societies claiming descent, mystics dreaming visions, adventurers digging in mountains, writers weaving stories, filmmakers drawing millions into its allure. The Grail has become not only relic, but archetype, the eternal call of humanity towards something greater, something hidden, something divine, a treasure that whispers because it cannot shout, a mystery that endures because it cannot end, the hidden heart of the Templars, the Grail. The seekers may never find an object they can hold, yet in their seeking they are transformed. In their listening they hear whispers. In their journey they approach the truth. The Grail is both hidden and revealed, both treasure and mirror, both relic and spirit. Those who search with humility find themselves. Those who search with greed find emptiness. Those who understand the whisper become the treasure themselves. For the Grail is not only hidden in vaults or bloodlines, it is hidden in the soul, waiting, eternal, whispering. Still, after the fires that consumed the Templars and the silence that followed their fall, whispers began to rise in hidden places, in secret gatherings, in the shadows of Europe, whispers that their order had not truly ended, that their treasures were not lost, that their mission endured in silence, carried forward by groups who claimed descent, by families who carried secrets, by societies who built new symbols out of old. The Grail never forgotten, the treasure never surrendered. The mystery, continuing in forms both hidden and open. The Freemasons emerged centuries later, and many believe they are connected to the Templars, not by direct blood perhaps, but by inheritance of symbols, rituals, architecture, their lodges filled with references to the Temple of Solomon, their oaths echoing secrecy, their structures marked with geometry that mirrors cathedrals where Templars once worshipped. Some whispered that the Masons preserved fragments of Templar treasure, that within their higher degree secrets of the Grail are encoded, that their symbols of compass and square are veils for mysteries of the vessel. If not the Grail itself, then the wisdom it represents, not object, but knowledge. In Portugal, the Order of Christ rose from the ashes of the Templars, knights absorbed into a new name, their ships later leading voyages of discovery across oceans, Vasco da Gama sailing under their cross, Henry the Navigator funding expeditions. Whispers claim the Grail itself, or relics connected to it, traveled on these ships, hidden in cargo, carried across seas, preserved in lands beyond Europe, safe from persecution, guarded by descendants who swore silence. Some imagine the Grail waiting still in vaults of Portugal, in monasteries built upon Templar foundations, hidden behind walls where only chosen initiates walk. Scotland, too, became refuge for fleeing knights. Legends tell that they fought at Bannockburn beside Robert the Bruce, that in gratitude they were given sanctuary, that they preserved their order in secret. Yoslin Chapel, later built as vessel of their mystery, a shrine not to saints alone, but to the Grail itself, carved in stone that whispers across centuries, guardianship continuing in silence, the St. Clair family holding secrets, preserving rights, sheltering treasure. Rosslyn itself, more than chapel, more than stone, a container of whispers, a Grail in architecture. Secret societies multiplied in later centuries, Rosicrucians appearing in the 17th century, with manifestos speaking of hidden wisdom, of secret treasures, of knowledge carried in silence. Their symbols echo alchemy, their stories recall Templar secrecy. Some say they too guarded fragments of the Grail tradition, passing knowledge through initiations, encoding secrets in writings filled with riddles, never revealing directly but always whispering the treasure hidden in words as the Templars once hid it in silence. The Grail appears again in the currents of mysticism, in orders like the Golden Dawn, in groups that sought to merge ancient wisdom with modern practice. They spoke of vessels of light, of inner grails, of quests that transform the soul, echoing the Templar understanding that the treasure is not only object, but path, that the true Grail lies within as much as without, that seekers become guardians when they embody the treasure they seek. Secret societies teaching what could not be spoken openly, preserving whispers where churches and kings, silenced voices there are. Families, too, who claim descent from Templars, lineages preserved, genealogies traced, whispers of treasures guarded in castles, relics hidden in vaults, parchments locked away, stories passed in silence from parent to child, each generation told never to reveal, each generation carrying the weight of guardianship. Whether truth or legend, the effect is the same. The Grail never forgotten, always preserved, always carried forward. In Rennes-le-Château in France, another layer of whisper emerged. A priest in the 19th century discovering parchments, suddenly wealthy. His village transformed, stories rising that he had found Templar treasure, that he had found the Grail itself, books written, speculations spreading, some claiming bloodline of Christ preserved, others claiming relics hidden in hills. Rennes-le-Château became center of Grail lore. Seekers still wandering its paths, still dreaming of treasure beneath its soil, still chasing whispers that never resolve. Perhaps truth, perhaps myth, but always echo of the Grail. Even in modern times, groups have claimed guardianship, some secretive, some public, some claiming authority as heirs of the Templars, some claiming possession of relics, some speaking of Grail as symbol of divine feminine, of sacred balance lost in history, of wisdom suppressed by church, the Grail as more than relic, as spiritual path preserved in secret orders, whispered through rituals, hidden in symbols, revealed only to initiates, guarded still as treasure too great for the world to seize. The Grail survives in secret societies because it is more than object. It is myth that demands guardianship, treasure that cannot be displayed, truth that cannot be shouted. It must be whispered, passed in silence, preserved in symbols, encoded in architecture, hidden in rites. The Templars began this silence. Their heirs continued it. Whether Freemasons or Rosicrucians, whether families or mystics, each became vessel for whispers, each preserved fragments, each ensured that the Grail would never be lost, only hidden, only waiting. And so the Grail remains, not in one vault, but in many, not in one family, but in countless, not in one society, but in every whisper that dares remember, the hidden treasure of the Templars, scattered like stars across history, yet always pointing to one light, always calling seekers, always waiting for those who understand that treasure cannot be seized but must be revealed, that guardianship is silence, that whispers carry eternity, that the Grail is eternal, still hidden, still whispering. Across centuries, the Grail has been chased not only by poets and mystics, but also by kings and adventurers, for power always desires what whispers of eternity. Rulers sent men across mountains and seas, explorers risked lives in deserts and forests, armies marched, believing they might uncover relics that would secure dominion forever. And yet the Grail has always escaped, hiding itself from greed, turning its face from ambition, yielding only whispers to those who tried to seize. In the middle, ages kings of France and Spain sent expeditions into mountains, their soldiers combing caves, monasteries, abandoned castles, searching for what they believed the Templars had hidden. Rumors spread that entire wagon trains of treasure had vanished when the order fell, that convoys of knights slipped away in night, carrying gold and relics, the Grail always at the center of these stories, always imagined as the prize that would give divine legitimacy to whoever held it. Yet every expedition returned with nothing but shadows, with stories of sealed caves, with fragments of chalices that never proved true. During the Renaissance, seekers turned to manuscripts, scholars poring over old texts in monasteries, trying to decode hints left by troubadours, looking for codes in the poems of Chrétien de Troyes, in the verses of Wolfram von Eschenbach, believing these were not only stories but maps, guides to real locations where the Grail might lie. They compared allegories to mountain ranges, metaphors to rivers, verses to constellations, hoping that through words they could find stone or cup, Yet each discovery dissolved into riddle, each riddle into silence, the Grail remaining hidden, giving nothing more than whisper. In the 17th century, rumors of Rosicrucians stirred Europe. Manifestos promising hidden wisdom, letters speaking of secret treasures, stories of mysterious brothers traveling unseen. Seekers across Germany, France, and England searched for them, believing the Grail might be in their keeping, believing they held knowledge that could grant immortality. Some traveled to mountains, some to remote monasteries, some sought initiation into secret circles. Yet the Rosicrucians remained elusive. The Grail remained whispered, never found, never revealed. The 18th and 19th centuries brought explorers who traveled further than ever before, men like archaeologists who dug in Holy Land, hoping to uncover relics buried in ruins, often sponsored by monarchs or wealthy patrons who believed the Grail might be among treasures of antiquity. These expeditions uncovered pottery, scrolls, ancient structures, but never the Grail, always relics that hinted at something more, always ruins that whispered of mysteries, never the treasure itself, the Grail slipping away, as if it did not belong to excavation, but to vision. In Victorian times, fascination with Arthurian legends rose again, poets and artists reviving the image of knights searching for a chalice of light, painters depicting glowing vessels, authors writing of hidden relics, secret societies drawing on this imagery to claim authority. Some claim that the Grail was preserved in Britain, hidden in Glastonbury, guarded by descendants of Joseph of Arimathea. Others said it was buried beneath the hills of Wales, guarded by spirits, always the same pattern, seekers searching in stone, the Grail answering only in whispers. In the 20th century, the quest took darker form. For those who sought the Grail were no longer only kings and poets, but regimes that dreamed of empire. In Nazi Germany, Heinrich Himmler and his SS order turned obsession toward ancient relics, seeking objects that might grant legitimacy and power. They built castles decorated with runes. They sent expeditions to Tibet, to Spain, to Montserrat, always searching for the Grail, imagining it as a vessel of power that could secure victory. But they found nothing. Their searches ending in silence, their grasp failing. For the Grail does not answer to conquest. It does not serve tyranny. It remains hidden from those who seek to dominate. Writers after the war wove these obsessions into new stories. Novels that blended history and myth. Tales of Templar treasure hidden beneath cathedrals, of bloodlines preserved in silence, of priests discovering parchments that revealed shocking truths, of secret societies still guarding the Grail. These stories captured imagination, turning the Grail into symbol not only of faith but of rebellion against authority, not only of divine relic, but of hidden truth waiting to overturn the powerful. The Grail became not just treasure, but challenge, whispering to those who dared question, those who dared seek beyond surface. Archaeologists of modern times continue to dig, from Jerusalem to Rennes-le-Château, from Chartres to Rosslyn, from Montségur to Glastonbury, uncovering fragments of history, manuscripts, carvings, bones, chalices, never the Grail itself, but always hints that draw seekers further. Each discovery becomes another whisper, another piece of puzzle, another reminder that the treasure endures, hidden, preserved, waiting, refusing to be claimed, refusing to be silenced. The Grail quest has never ceased because it is more than object. It is archetype. It is reflection of human longing for eternity, for divine connection, for truth beyond corruption. Each expedition, each poem, each excavation is expression of this longing. Seekers project their hunger onto chalices and stones, onto cathedrals and caves, but the Grail remains what it always was, treasure of transformation, not revealed by conquest, but by humility, not found by armies, but by seekers who listen to whispers. And so the story continues. Explorers still walk mountains, scholars still pore over manuscripts, filmmakers still bring knights and chalices to screen, audiences still dream of glowing vessels and hidden bloodlines, the Grail whispering through every generation, eluding grasp, avoiding seizure, demanding instead that we understand, that we listen, that we walk the path, the hidden treasure of the Templars, enduring not in vaults, but in whispers, waiting still. The Grail has always escaped those who sought it as an object. Armies have marched, kings have commanded, scholars have searched manuscripts, explorers have crossed mountains and seas. Yet the vessel has never been found in certainty. Every discovery dissolves into debate, every relic questioned, every chalice doubted, every claim contested, as if the Grail itself resists being seized, as if it hides not in vaults or caves, but in a place no sword or map can reach, as if the treasure is less about possession and more about transformation. Mystics across centuries have spoken of the Grail not as cup, but as symbol, not as relic, but as mirror, a vessel not of stone or gold, but of light, a container of divine presence, a bridge between human and eternal. They say that those who approach the Grail unprepared see nothing, but those who purify their heart find it revealed, not outside, but within, not in vaults, but in soul. The Grail hidden in the human spirit, waiting for awakening, waiting for remembrance, a treasure that cannot be seized because it already belongs to those who seek in humility. Alchemy offers another reflection, the Grail as vessel of transformation, the cup that holds elixir of life, the container of philosopher's stone, the process of turning base metal into gold, mirroring the process of turning mortal soul into immortal. The Grail is not found by digging earth, but by transmuting self, not by conquest, but by fire of inner work, not by armies, but by solitude of spirit. The Grail as symbol of eternal alchemy, hidden in plain sight, always whispered, always calling those willing to burn away their impurities until what remains is light. Christian mystics spoke of the Grail as chalice of Christ, but also as heart of Christ, as blood flowing not only through vessel, but through love. The Grail as symbol of sacrifice, of transformation through suffering, of divine presence carried in flesh. Some said that to drink from the Grail is to awaken to eternity, to taste not only wine but light, to remember not only story, but truth. The Grail as union with divine, hidden, not because it is lost, but because it demands surrender. It demands humility. It demands that the seeker die to self before awakening to eternity. Celtic legends long before the Templars spoke of cauldrons of rebirth, vessels that granted endless nourishment, containers that brought warriors back to life, treasures guarded by gods and hidden in otherworldly realms. These cauldrons are early, grails, symbols of abundance, of immortality, of divine power contained in vessel, the myth transformed by Christian language into chalice of Christ, but the essence unchanged, always a vessel of eternity, always a container of divine, always a treasure that demands quest, that requires purity, that tests the soul of the seeker. The Grail resists being found because it is not meant to be owned. To own it would be to kill its mystery. To display it would be to diminish its power. It can only live in quest. It can only thrive in search. The treasure is not the cup, but the journey, not the vessel, but the transformation. The Templars may have understood this. They may have hidden not object, but knowledge. They may have guarded not relic, but path, ensuring that the Grail would never fall into hands that sought power, ensuring that it would remain hidden, whispering only to those who walk the way of transformation. The Grail is symbol of balance, of union, of opposites reconciled, masculine and feminine, heaven and earth, human and divine, life and death. It is hidden because humanity is still divided, because seekers must first heal within before they can perceive without. The vessel cannot be seen by eyes clouded with greed. It cannot be touched by hands stained with blood. It cannot be possessed by hearts filled with pride. Only those who become whole can see it. Only those who embody balance can approach. The Grail reveals itself only to those who have already become it in this sense. Every seeker who fails is not truly failing, for the Grail transforms them even in failure. The quest itself is initiation. The searching purifies. The journey reshapes. Every knight who rode out was tested. Every mystic who meditated was changed. Every scholar who studied was humbled. The Grail always giving treasure though never found. The Whisper always transforming though never seized. The hidden vessel working in silence, making seekers into vessels themselves. This is why the Grail endures across centuries, why it appears in stories, in poems, in art, in music, in architecture. Because it is not object limited to time or place. It is archetype eternal, reflection of humanity's longing for union with divine, memory of what was lost, promise of what can be regained. The Grail is humanity's mirror, showing our hunger, our quest, our transformation, always hidden yet always here, always elusive yet always within reach, waiting not in vaults, but in souls. The Templars may have been guardians of this truth, their secrecy preserving not cup of gold, but wisdom of transformation, their silence protecting not relic, but mystery, their sacrifice ensuring that the Grail would never be corrupted by kings, never be displayed as trophy, never be turned into weapon. Instead, preserved in whispers, scattered across legends, encoded in stone, hidden in song. The Grail thus eternal, never seized, never lost, always calling. The Grail is hidden treasure of the soul, eternal vessel of light, container of divine presence, symbol of union, path of transformation, whisper of eternity. The seekers continue, the quest endures, the treasure waits. Not in mountains or caves, not in cathedrals or vaults, but in every seeker who dares listen, in every soul who dares surrender, in every heart who dares awaken. The Grail is here. The Grail is now. The Grail is eternal, whispering still. The Grail is not only legend hidden in vaults or whispered by secret orders. It has also lived in art and music, in the brushstrokes of painters, in the lines of poets, in the notes of composers, in the dreams of storytellers. It has shaped culture as much as it has haunted seekers, always appearing, always transforming, never fading, always whispering through beauty and imagination. When the medieval poets wrote of knights riding into forests, of quests for vessels of light, of visions of glowing chalices, they were not only entertaining courts, but shaping the imagination of Europe. Chrétien de Troyes gave us the first Grail story, incomplete yet powerful, a vessel that nourishes, a procession of mystery, a knight who does not ask the right question, a treasure that remains hidden. This poem set the stage for centuries of Grail stories, each adding layers, each shaping myth, each echoing whispers that came perhaps from Templar secrecy, from legends already in circulation, from truths too dangerous to tell directly. Wolfram von Eschenbach took the story further, speaking not of a cup, but of a stone fallen from heaven, a stone that sustains, a stone guarded by knights. His Parzival became one of the greatest epics of the Middle Ages, blending myth, mysticism, and chivalry, presenting the Grail not only as treasure, but as test, not only as object, but as spiritual ordeal. This vision spread across courts, inspiring both nobles and monks, turning the Grail into symbol not of relic, but of destiny, not of possession, but of transformation. Later poets continued, Malory in England weaving the Grail into Arthurian cycles, making it the pinnacle of knighthood, the ultimate quest, only the purest achieving vision, Galahad reaching it, others failing, the Grail as measure of the soul, as mirror of virtue. These tales were read aloud, shaping ideals of knighthood, shaping visions of purity, shaping imagination of faith and destiny. The Grail living not only in manuscripts but in hearts of those who heard painters too, gave the Grail full form, illuminations in manuscripts showing golden chalices glowing with divine light, knights kneeling before vessels radiant with mystery, cathedrals filled with stained glass that echoed Grail imagery, chalices shining in beams of sun, art making whispers visible, art turning invisible treasure into visible symbol, always elusive, always glowing, always hinting at something beyond canvas and glass. Music also carried the Grail. Richard Wagner, in the 19th century, gave us Parsifal, his final opera, filled with mysticism, with choruses that seemed to open heaven, with imagery of vessels glowing with divine light, with knights guarding, with seekers purified. His music turned the Grail into sound, into vibration that seemed to touch eternity. Audiences wept, critics argued, mystics listened in silence. Wagner's Parsifal carried whispers of the Grail into modern world, making them live in music that still echoes, still whispers artists of romantic era. Painted knights kneeling, chalices glowing, maidens carrying vessels of light, forests filled with mystery. Canvases turned into visions of Grail, art becoming pilgrimage, art becoming whisper, culture itself becoming vessel for mystery. For even if the Grail was never found in stone or gold, it was always found in imagination, always revealed in beauty, always whispering through creation. In modern times, the Grail entered novels, films, popular stories, from Tennyson's Idylls of the King to contemporary thrillers, from silent films to blockbusters. The Grail remains symbol of hidden treasure, of ultimate quest, of secret truth. It appears in stories of bloodlines, in tales of secret societies, in adventures of archaeologists, always changing form, always the same essence, always treasure hidden, always calling seekers both fictional and real. The Grail whispering through culture, never dying, always transforming. Why does the Grail endure in art? Because art itself is vessel. Art itself is Grail. The brush, the pen, the note, each becomes container of divine. Each reveals what cannot be spoken directly. Each makes visible what is invisible. The Grail survives not because it is found in vaults, but because it is painted, sung, told, dreamed. Art keeps the treasure alive. Imagination keeps it whispering. Culture becomes its guardian. Artists its secret knights. Creativity its eternal temple. The Templars may have guarded relic, but poets guarded myth. Painters guarded vision. Musicians guarded sound. Storytellers guarded dream. Together, they ensured the Grail would never vanish. Together, they carried it forward across centuries. Even if the relic is hidden, the symbol shines. Even if the treasure is lost, the whisper remains. The Grail eternal, alive in art, alive in imagination, alive in the beauty of creation. And so we see that the Grail is not only hidden treasure of the Templars, but hidden treasure of humanity. It whispers, not only through vaults and ruins, but through songs and stories, through poems and paintings, through films and myths. It is eternal because it lives in imagination. It endures because it is art. It is whispered still. It is sought still. It is painted still. It is sung still. The Grail alive, the Grail eternal, the Grail whispering through culture, the hidden treasure that never dies. Throughout history, power has always sought symbols to justify its rule. Crowns forged of gold, thrones carved from stone, relics displayed in cathedrals, banners raised in battle. Yet among all symbols, none was imagined as powerful as the Grail. For to hold it was to claim divine blessing. To drink from it was to claim immortality. To guard it was to claim authority higher than kings. And so rulers dreamed of it. Popes whispered of it. Emperors sought it. Secret orders promised it. and wars were fought under its shadow. In medieval France, the kings envied the Templars, their treasure, their independence, their blessing from the Pope. The Grail was said to be within their keeping, and so when King Philip moved against them, it was not only to seize gold, but to seize legitimacy. For if he could claim the Grail, his throne would be sanctified beyond doubt, his rule declared eternal, his enemies silenced, yet the treasure escaped, the Grail vanished, and the king, though triumphant in destroying the order, found himself still haunted by whispers, accused of corruption, cursed by the last Grand Master, his line collapsing within generations, as if the Grail itself had turned away from him. Popes, too, understood the power of relics. The Church had long gathered bones of saints, pieces of the cross, chalices and shrouds, each displayed to draw pilgrims, each used to strengthen authority, and yet the Grail was always absent, always rumored, but never secured. If the Church could have held it openly, its power would have been absolute, yet the Grail eluded, hidden perhaps by the very Templars who once served papal blessing, preserved beyond reach of Rome, the Grail resisting the grasp of institution, refusing to be weapon of hierarchy, whispering only to seekers of humility. In the Holy Roman Empire, legends spread that emperors sought the Grail to make their rule eternal, to claim divine blood, to connect their lineage to Christ himself. Frederick Barbarossa became bound to Grail legends, sleeping beneath mountains, waiting to return, a messianic echo tied to relics never found, his successors searching, his empire dreaming. The Grail, a symbol of unity that never came, a treasure of legitimacy never secured, always beyond grasp, always hidden. In Spain, the chalice of Valencia was raised as Holy Grail. Kings knelt before it, popes celebrated Mass with it, armies carried its name into battle. It became symbol of divine favor upon Iberian thrones, and yet debate always lingered. Was it the true Grail, or another relic? Faith clung to it. Politics wielded it. But whispers still said the real treasure was elsewhere, hidden in mountains, guarded in silence, preserved beyond politics, preserved against corruptions. In Britain, the Grail became bound to Arthurian myth, and through myth to monarchy, rulers claimed descent from Arthur, poets sang of knights who sought the Grail. Glastonbury became pilgrimage, Joseph of Arimathea said to have brought the vessel. Kings drew upon these legends to legitimize rule, to claim their island was holy, their throne sanctified, the Grail woven into national destiny, yet always myth, always hidden, never displayed, the treasure strengthening imagination, but never seized in stone. In modern times, even nations and regimes turn to the Grail, for its whisper is not limited to kings and monks. It calls to those who dream of empire. In Nazi Germany, Himmler and his SS were obsessed with relics. They built Wewelsburg Castle as new temple. They decorated with runes. They sought treasures across Spain and the East, always imagining the Grail as source of ultimate power, a relic that would sanctify their ideology, make their Reich eternal. But the Grail eluded them. Their search is empty, their empire collapsing, their dream consumed, as if the Grail itself repelled them, as if it could never be seized by tyranny. Politicians in later centuries have also invoked the Grail metaphor, revolutionaries speaking of hidden treasure of the people, leaders using it as symbol of ultimate goal, nations adopting it as metaphor for destiny, always the Grail in politics, always the Grail in power, yet never owned, never found, never seized, always whispering, but never yielding. The Grail influences power because it embodies what rulers desire most: legitimacy, eternity, divine sanction. Yet it escapes because power seeks to own, and the Grail cannot be owned. It can only be revealed to those who surrender. It cannot be wielded as weapon. It cannot be displayed as trophy. It resists corruption. It resists domination. It hides from those who seek control. It whispers only to those who seek truth. And so across centuries rulers have dreamed of it. Kings have hunted, popes have prayed, emperors have marched, dictators have searched, all have failed. The Grail remains hidden, preserved not for power but for seekers, not for crowns but for souls, not for politics but for transformation. It is eternal because it cannot be seized. It is sacred because it cannot be corrupted. It is whispered because it cannot be shouted. It is the treasure beyond power, the hidden heart of legitimacy that power longs for but never gains. The Grail is not throne, not crown, not empire. It is eternal vessel of truth. It is treasure of spirit. It is hidden treasure of Templars, preserved against kings, preserved against popes, preserved against empires, whispering still, waiting for seekers not of power, but of purity, not of conquest, but of humility, not of dominance, but of transformation. The Grail eternal, the Grail hidden, the Grail beyond all power.